Hey, you, how's it going? Good? Good, glad to hear it. I'm lovely also, thank you for asking. I've been doing this show for what, 2 years now? Maybe even longer than that, certainly feels longer than that, and I still have absolutely bugger all idea how to actually start the bloody things. In fact, what I might actually do is just start cutting in intros from earlier episodes, because let's face it, nobody bloody watches this shit anyway, and even less people watched it back then.
Hello you gorgeous peeps and welcome to another thrilling episode of TechSpert Weekly, the only weekly YouTube tech news show that aims to pack a dozen jokes into just 10 short minutes. And it's been yet another fan-dabby-dozy week of existence, especially if you happen to get all hot and bothered about Samsung Exynos chipsets. Anyway, enough of all of this drivel, it's time to rip off the band-aid and get this show started proper. You bring the booze, I'll bring the jingle. TechSpert Weekly! So the big headlines this week mostly come courtesy of those lovely mofos over at Samsung, who, after a slight delay, have finally launched their latest crotch-thrustingly audacious smartphone chipset, the Exynos 2200. Now the last effort was of course the Exynos 2100, which was squashed lovingly inside of the Galaxy S21 family. And while Samsung promised wondrous things from the Exynos 2100, the actual reality was about as depressing as a full body massage from a particularly sweaty James Corden. Performance when gaming on an Exynos 2100 blower is very much a letdown compared with premium rivals, as demonstrated here on anime-style murder simulator Genshin Impact. However, the fresh 4nm Exynos 2200, constructed in partnership with AMD, should make amends just going on the specs so far. You've got Samsung's awkwardly titled but swaggerific X-Clips GPU, which supports clever graphical shenanigans like ray tracing, something you won't even find on Qualcomm's beefy Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset. So you can expect gorgeous console-style graphics from supported titles as they emerge, if indeed they ever do, and hopefully smoother gaming performance courtesy of the 2200's variable rate shading smarts. And by the way, no, I haven't just drunkenly accidentally slapped a random episode of some crap sci-fi show on top of this bit. This is the actual trailer for the Exynos 2200. Hang on, wait for it. Wait for it. There you go, see? Now, like its Snapdragon rival, the Exynos 2200 apparently supports camera sensors up to 200 megapixels, while the NPU, the neural processing unit, is apparently twice as spooge-worthy as that found on the Exynos 2100, good news for all your AI-based shenanigans. So for once, I'm actually quite looking forward to getting my mitts on the Exynos version of the upcoming Samsung Galaxy S22 smartphones rather than the Snapdragon version that the US lot will get. You know, it often feels like us Brits are sort of making do with a bland oatmeal biscuit version of Samsung smartphones, whereas our American cousins get to gorge themselves silly on a cream-filled pie model. Apologies for the food-based analogies, I'm actually shooting this before breakfast, which is always a bad idea as I'm freaking starving. Now, speaking of those new flagships, you can expect Samsung to spaff out its Galaxy S22 family on February the 8th, with the usual S22, S22 Plus and S22 Ultra handset lineup. The design doesn't look to have changed up much at all from these various leaks and renders, although the standard S22 is apparently a bit more compact than last year's S21 with a 6-inch screen, which should please my fellow stubby-fingered Samsung fans. You can also expect an upgraded 50 megapixel primary shooter on the S22 and that Plus model, not a full-on 200 megapixel effort, which may well be reserved for the Ultra. While all three Galaxies serve up a proper optical zoom, including no doubt a ridiculously over-the-top space zoom affair for the Ultra. So yeah, it looks like the camera tech and the chipset are going to be the biggest upgrades in this year's Galaxy S22 smartphones compared with last year's S21. But if you want to know more about all of that shenanigans, well, you could go check out my highly arousing video entitled Best Smartphones Coming Early 2022. I mean, frankly, cancel your Friday night plans. All you need is that bad boy on repeat. And some new smartphones that are dropping even sooner than those Galaxy S22s are Xiaomi's new Redmi Note 11 handsets, with the launch kicking off midday next Wednesday, that's January the 26th. It's not exactly going to be shocks ahoy, admittedly, as the Redmi Note 11 series already launched in China back in 2021, but you can expect some software and specs tweaks to the smartphones in order to fit a global audience. While the original Chinese launch lineup consists of 3 phones, it looks like we're just getting 2 here in the UK, the Redmi Note 11 Pro and the Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G. According to the latest leaks, that standard Note 11 Pro packs a MediaTek Helio G96 chipset, while the 5G model is powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 695.
Apart from that, it's almost identical specs across the board, including a whopper of a 6.7-inch 120Hz display, a 5000 mAh battery with 67-watt fast charge support, and a 108 megapixel rear camera. So it doesn't look like Xiaomi has really shaken things up much compared with last year's excellent Redmi Note 10 Pro, besides upgrading the chipset and of course the faster charging support as well. And that's not exactly a massive shocker because let's face it, the Redmi Note 10 Pro was hotter than a freshly baked Greggs sausage roll. Ugh, really need to stop with the food stuff before my stomach just bloody well implodes. Anyway, hopefully more on the Redmi Note 11 series next week. I'm going to bring you a full unboxing and review of those bad boys imminently. And last up, some big gaming news this week as Microsoft whipped out its checkbook and spunked out almost $70 billion for Activision Blizzard, just the latest in a long line of dev and publisher acquisitions. Microsoft gaming bigwig Phil Spencer has been reassuring PlayStation owners that some Activision titles will indeed be appearing on the PS5 in the future. But frankly, that kind of feels like a fox reassuring a chicken that, no, don't worry, I'm not going to rip your face off and slurp your entrails, but don't get too disappointed if you wake up tomorrow and those delicious chicken thighs of yours have mysteriously vanished. Oh god, stomach cramps worsening. Must stop thinking about chicken. Anyway, I really must crack on, so that's enough tech news. Let's skip merrily onto the part of the show that's about as wholesome as a KFC bargain bucket double deep fried in a vat of lard. There's viewer comments in it. Viewer comments. Alright, so let's kick off with Miguel, who says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, sir. Let's start the year by not talking about tech. Yeah, for sure. Let's definitely start how we mean to go on. If you want to not talk about tech, this is the right place. He says 2022 is a year full of big games. I'm especially interested in Elden Ring. What are your must-play video games of this year? Well, the first and only game that I've played so far in 2022 is the rather excellent and underrated Shower with Your Dad Simulator 2015. Cost me a whopping 55p on Steam, but definitely worth every penny. I'm not even going to begin to explain it right here, but it does exactly what it says on the tin. There are 3 different dads that you can shower with, so good bit of variety. As for what games I'm looking forward to in 2022, well, anything with Ring in the title immediately gets an upvote from me, that's for sure. I mean, to be honest, the thing I'm most looking forward to is the Steam Deck actually finally being released, which would be absolutely bloody wonderful, because frankly, my Steam library is a disgrace. I'm sure, like most people, dozens of titles that I've stacked up over the years, never even installed on my bloody computer, because I just don't have the friggin' time. So at least with the Steam Deck, you can sit there and try and actually get through some of this stuff while I'm unleashing hot fury on my toilet bowl. And of course, naturally, now that I'm hooked, I'm really hoping for a Shower with My Dad Simulator sequel with even more hot, soapy, bathing with your close relatives action. Next up, Steve Hornsby says, you are as good a reviewer as you are a book writer. Hey, no need for that, Stevie. Come on, mate. Oh no, wait, he's not being mean. He actually likes my books. Almost at the end of Dead Dogs and have to say a mighty good read. Do you only have digital copies or can I get them in hardback? Yeah, they're basically digital only, I'm afraid. My first book, Bat Boy, did get published by a small independent publisher. There are a few paperback copies floating about, but they're rarer than a funny joke in Mrs. Brown's Boys, frankly. But who knows, some YouTubers seem to get book deals these days, despite the fact they can't so much as write a video title without using all caps and about a dozen emojis and the kind of punctuation that would drive an English teacher screaming to the top of the nearest high building so they could hurl themselves off it. Donald says, any word on the Xiaomi 12 UK release date or pricing? I'm intrigued that it seems to be relatively compact and could finally replace my Mi 9 SE, which at this point is completely f***ing knackered. Yeah, the word on the Xiaomi 12 is that it's going to get a global launch in February. Can't remember if there's an exact date, but it's sort of around the end of February, so hopefully not too much longer to wait there. Next, Adam says, hey Spurt, appreciate your good reviews. I sometimes think your reviews tend to be a bit on the enthusiastic side, less focus on downsides, but I may be wrong. Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely always try and point out the shitty bits of any piece of tech that I review, otherwise what's the point? If you want to see me being down on a product, then definitely check out my VivoBook review that went live yesterday, because oh boy, that's a bit of a stinker. But I'm really glad that I apparently come across as enthusiastic after, 13 years of reviewing tech, because inside I am just a bitter, jaded husk of a man. Next up, Welsh Lad says, have visited Iceland 4 times and revisiting again in March. Wow, you like it cold then. Yeah, I definitely need to get myself there again and do it properly this time, because I just did all the touristy bollocks this time. What I need to do is basically just hire out a massive, ridiculous Volvo and go tearing across the wilderness with a boot full of that delicious vodka. Next up, Bautista Power Slam, great name, says, "Cheers, Professor X. You take any pics of the green lights?" No, I didn't get so much as a sniff of the Northern Lights, annoyingly. I basically froze my tits off for 2 hours on a cliff somewhere on the southern coast. I saw about 3 or 4 stars, and also a bunch of weird light-up gravestones in the church next to us, which was a bit weird. But it seems to be a thing in Iceland. A lot of their gravestones are just decorated like some kind of like Halloween kids party. Not really sure what that is all about, but if anyone happens to know, then definitely hit me up in the comments, because that's very intriguing. Next up, Lord Lucan says, "Hope you managed to get to see the Northern Lights." Sadly not, as that's on my bucket list, including seeing Millwall in the FA Cup final, which we've done. Yeah, bloody right you have, because you get beat us, Sunderland, 1-0 in the semis to get to that final. Back in 2004, I think it was. And I remember that well because I randomly watched that match on a tiny 12-inch TV in a bar in the middle of a jungle in Malaysia. It was like the only place. I didn't think I had a hope in hell of watching the semi-finals because I was in the middle of fucking nowhere. But thankfully there was this one bar and it happened to have a TV, and it happened to be randomly shown the Sunderland Millwall match on, I think it was like Dragon TV or some random channel like that. Perhaps unsurprisingly, there were no other Sunderland or Millwall fans in the bar, so it wasn't exactly full of atmosphere or anything, but luckily they did have some ridiculously potent rice wine, so I just downed a few jugs of that to get over the misery. Next up, Simon says, Hypno says, "I bet there were 24 Motorola phones waiting on your doorstep when you got back home." Yeah, no, I think it's been about a month now since I've reviewed a Motorola smartphone. They're probably all saving them up for a bloody MWC in Barcelona next month. That's what it is. I swear I'm going to be lugging a sack full of Motorola smartphones on that bloody plane like some kind of shit smartphone Santa. Next up, Duas Belata, sorry, I probably completely mauled the pronunciation of that. Thanks for shoving your tail right in my face, mate. Says, "Love your spurt." Love you too, buddy. And also love your choice of holiday destination. I'm from Dublin, so €8 a pint was, just about the same as a pub in the city. Yeah, you see, I'd absolutely love to visit Ireland at some point, but the frankly ridiculous, ludicrous prices of booze over there is definitely massively putting me off. Kind of terrifies me actually. Is it just Dublin where it's that mental, or is everywhere a bit nuts? Next up, Scott says, "Hi Uncle Spurt, I have a suggestion. Maybe in February you could do a best Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 phones so far video." To which Elizabeth has replied, "You'll probably be too drunk by then to remember anything." By then? Now, normally my drinking kind of peaks around this sort of time, January, which, by the way, dry January, why is that a friggin' thing still? You know, I thought we'd all got used to just downing lots of alcohol to get through the general miseries of life. In January? Why would you deprive yourself of booze in January of all months? It's dark, it's cold, it's miserable. Frankly, dry January. We should all be doing hard January, where you get rid of your beers and your ciders and you just go straight onto the good stuff, the bloody 80% proof. Keep everything comfortably fuzzy until St. Paddy's Day. Next up, we've got Neil, who says, "Gotta ask, but are you a Calvin and Hobbes fan? Going by your lovely cat's name, quality comic strips." I certainly am, sir. I bought all of them back in the day, and then I went and spunked out on the complete Calvin and Hobbes collection box set, which is sat on a shelf actually just behind me over there. I was actually hoping to call the cats Calvin and Hobbes, but I was vetoed by my family because only Hobbes is actually a cat, kind of. So instead of Calvin and Hobbes, we've got Kuro and Hobbes. This charming little fuzzy fella right here on my lap right now is Kuro, named after a demonic anime cat, as you do. Next up, Fuku-chan says, "Hi Chris, does your review pile really exist, or are you just using it for teasing? I want to see it." Steady on, mate. You got to wine and dine me if you want to see my stack. It's actually not so much of a pile anymore. Now it's actually, because I've redesigned the studio and everything, most of them are actually now housed in that cupboard over there, out of sight, so they don't give me palpitations anymore. I can't actually show you any of it because some of the stuff in there is still under embargo, unfortunately, very hush-hush, etc. Mia says, "I'm excited for the Samsung Freestyle and some of those new Garmin watches." Yeah, those Garmin's look really, really good, to be fair. I've definitely got to get some of those reviews, although there's quite a few smartwatches coming out in the next couple of months, what with MWC and all that shenanigans, so my wrists are going to get very busy indeed, so to speak. And I've really got to finish now because I'm way over time. Last comment for the week, Etienne says, "Staggered that you mentioned Goblin Magic without a your mum joke." Sorry, mate, I'm definitely slipping on that front. I promise lots of your mum in the next episode. So that's it for this week. Thank you very much to all you crazy morphos for watching this thing, whatever this is. And a massive thanks to everyone who commented last week as well. Please do poke your comments down below. Apologies to anyone whose comment we didn't manage to get to, because there were just so many from you lovely buggers. And next week, well, of course, the Redmi Note 11 series, as I already banged on about. There might be a few other little bits creeping out here and there as well. And definitely come sit on my lap, not physically, obviously, just metaphorically, next Friday at midday for another thing of this, if you want, or, you know, do something better with your life, because frankly, we're only here for a short time. Got to make the most of it, eh? And on that motivational speech, have a fantastic bloody weekend. And yeah, that's about it. Cheers. Love you. Bye.